The smell of rosemary fills my kitchen as I knead the dough, flour dusting my knuckles like powder. Tuesday afternoons are sacred in this house, baking day, the one ritual I've kept since Gerald passed. Through the open window, Margaret's voice cuts through the autumn air. Lola. Congratulations on Avery's wedding. The photos are absolutely stunning. My hands stop mid-knead. Wedding? The word comes out barely a whisper. If you're watching this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Now let's get to the story. I wipe my palms on my apron, leaving white streaks across the faded blue fabric. My tablet sits on the counter where I left it after checking the weather this morning. I reach for it with trembling fingers. The screen illuminates, and there she is. Avery. My granddaughter. My girl, the child I rocked to sleep when Sandra died, the toddler who called me Gamma before she could say Grandma, the teenager I tutored through calculus at this very kitchen table. She's draped in silk and lace, her dark hair swept up beneath a cathedral veil. Beside her stands a man I've never seen before, tall, sharp-suited, his hand possessive on her waist. The caption glows beneath, the Lawson Baines wedding. An exclusive family affair. I scroll. More photos cascade across the screen. Avery laughing with bridesmaids I don't recognize. Mark, my son-in-law, looking uncomfortable in his tuxedo. And there is Belinda, resplendent in champagne silk, her smile wide and triumphant. My throat tightens. Mark still calls me Mom. Has since the day he married my Sandra 27 years ago. I never had a mother who cared, he'd told me on their wedding day, tears in his eyes. Can I call you Mom? I'd hugged him, welcomed him as my own. And when Sandra got sick, when the cancer ravaged her beautiful body, Mark and I held each other through the worst of it. We raised Avery together, two people united by grief and love. That was before Belinda. Every face in these photos is familiar except the groom's. Every person I know. Every person who knows me. I keep scrolling until the comments section appears. Such a beautiful bride. Congratulations to the whole Lawson family. What a perfect day for a perfect couple. So honored to celebrate with you all. 43 comments. Cousins, neighbors, people from my own church congregation. Everyone was there. Everyone but me. My tablet slips from my hands onto the counter. The dough sits abandoned, half-formed, already beginning to lose its elasticity. She didn't invite me, I whisper to the empty kitchen. My own blood, she banned me. The phone rings, sharp and sudden. Mark's name flashes across the screen. I stare at it for 3 rings before answering. Mom? His voice sounds strained, guilty. I was going to call you. When? The word comes out harder than I intended. When were you going to call me, Mark? Before or after my granddaughter married a complete stranger? Silence stretches between us like a chasm. Belinda thought, he begins. Belinda. I close my eyes. Of course. The woman who entered our lives 3 years ago like a whirlwind, beautiful, charming, 20 years younger than Mark. The woman who slowly, methodically, began rewriting our family history. Suddenly, I wasn't the devoted grandmother who raised Avery through her grief. I was overbearing. Controlling. Living in the past. You know how Avery's been lately, Mark continues, his voice pleading. She's going through a phase. Belinda said it would be easier if I wasn't there. My voice sounds strange to my own ears, calm, almost pleasant. The tone I used to use as headmistress when parents forgot permission slips or made excuses for their children's failures. If the woman who raised her from infancy simply didn't exist. Mom, please. Don't make this harder than. Harder than what, Mark? Harder than discovering through my neighbor that my granddaughter got married? Harder than seeing photos of you and that woman celebrating while I baked bread in an empty house? I remember when Avery was 3, clutching my hand at Sandra's funeral. Where's Mama? She kept asking. Mark couldn't answer, he was destroyed, barely functional. So I took her home. I sang her to sleep. I wiped her tears. I became her world. For 15 years, I was her world. We were going to tell you afterwards, Mark says weakly. Avery just needed space from the tension. The tension. As if I created it. As if I did anything but love that child with every fiber of my being. Who is he? I ask quietly. This Caleb Baines. Do you know anything about him? He's successful. Works in finance. Makes Avery happy. Makes her happy. I glance at the tablet, at Avery's smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. In 40 years of teaching, I learned to read faces, to see what children tried to hide. That smile is performance, not joy. And you met him when? Mark hesitates. At the engagement party. How long have they been together? Mom. How long, Mark? 7 months. 7 months. My granddaughter has been planning a wedding for half a year, and the man I once called my son, the man who wept in my arms when Sandra died, said nothing. I walked to the mantel where Sandra's photograph sits in its silver frame. My daughter at 23, radiant and alive, holding newborn Avery in her arms. I was 45 then, young enough to start over, to become a mother again to this tiny, precious girl. You always told me I was too forgiving, Sandra, I whisper, touching the glass. Maybe it's time I learned something new. Mom? Are you still there? I'd forgotten Mark was on the line. I'm here, I say. Tell me something, Mark. This wedding, was it large? Expensive? Well, yes. Belinda wanted to make sure Avery had the perfect day. The venue, the dress, How did you pay for it? The silence that follows tells me everything. We used some savings, he says finally. And Belinda managed to access Avery's trust fund early. For her own wedding. She's an adult now, so technically. The trust fund. The one I established with my pension money when Avery was born. 25 years of contributions. Every birthday, every Christmas, every small victory, I put money aside for her future. For college. For a house. For security. Sandra made me promise. If anything happens to me, Mom, make sure she's taken care of. I kept that promise even after Sandra was gone, even when my own retirement account suffered, even when I had to delay fixing the roof or replacing the furnace. That money wasn't for a wedding. It was for Avery's life. I see, I say softly. Thank you for being honest, Mark. Mom, I'm sorry. I should have stood up to Belinda. I should have insisted you be there. But Avery was so adamant, and Belinda kept saying. What did she keep saying? He exhales. That you'd disapprove of Caleb. That you'd make a scene. That you'd ruin Avery's day by being judgmental. Judgmental. Because I asked questions. Because I noticed that Avery stopped visiting, stopped calling, stopped being the girl who once told me I was her best friend. Did I? I ask quietly. Did I ever ruin anything for Avery? No, Mark admits, his voice breaking. No, Mom. You gave her everything. Then why wasn't I there, Mark? He doesn't answer. He can't. Because we both know the truth. Belinda wanted me erased. And he let her do it. I have to go, I say. Mom, wait. I end the call. The kitchen is quiet again except for the ticking of the old wall clock Gerald installed 40 years ago. I stand there as the afternoon light shifts, as shadows lengthen across the countertops I've wiped clean 10,000 times. The bread dough has gone slack, unusable now. I scrape it into the trash. Some things can't be salvaged once they've been abandoned. I pour myself a cup of tea, Earl Grey, the way Sandra used to make it, and sit at the kitchen table. The same table where Avery learned to read, where where we played cards on rainy afternoons, where she confided her first heartbreak at 14. "He doesn't even see me, Grandma," she'd sobbed. "Then he's blind," I'd told her, smoothing her hair. "You are extraordinary, my darling. Never forget that." When did she forget? When did I become the enemy? I pull out my laptop, open it, and create a new document. At the top, I type 3 names. Caleb Baines. Belinda Lawson. Mark Lawson. My cursor blinks, waiting. For 72 years, I've lived on this earth. 40 of those years spent teaching children to think critically, to question, to verify. To never accept the easy answer when the truth requires digging. I taught them that every problem has a solution. You just have to be willing to do the work. They wanted me absent. They wanted me silent. They wanted me erased from the story of my own granddaughter's life. But I was never just a grandmother. I was a headmistress. An educator. A woman who built futures by demanding truth and accountability. And right now, staring at that photograph of Avery in her wedding dress, I see something in her eyes that terrifies me. The same look Sandra had when she first got sick and didn't want to tell me. Fear hiding behind a smile. I pull up a search engine and type, Caleb Baines Denver Finance. The results flood the screen. Professional headshots. LinkedIn profiles. Company websites with polished corporate language. I click through each one methodically, the way I used to review student applications, looking for inconsistencies, gaps, the small details others miss. By the time the sun sets completely, casting my kitchen in darkness, I have 17 browser tabs open. And a phone number. Marcus Cole. One of my former students, now a private investigator. I helped him get into college when everyone else said he wouldn't make it. He sends me a Christmas card every year. Still grateful, Mrs. Lawson. I dial his number. Mrs. Lawson? His voice is surprised, warm. This is unexpected. How are you? I need a favor, Marcus, I say. And I need you to be discreet. Of course. What do you need? I glance at Avery's photo on my screen, my beautiful, lost granddaughter smiling beside a man whose eyes don't smile at all. I need you to tell me everything about a man named Caleb Baines, I say. Everything he's done, everyone he's hurt, every secret he's hiding. Is this personal? Very. Marcus is quiet for a moment. I'll start tonight. Give me 3 days. Thank you, Marcus. Mrs. Lawson? Whatever he did, I hope he's ready for what's coming. I smile faintly. He won't be. That's the point. After we hang up, I sit in the darkness for a long time, Sandra's photograph barely visible in the dim light from the street lamp outside. They banned me from the wedding, I whisper. But they can't ban me from the truth. I close the laptop. The investigation has begun. And this time, I won't be too forgiving. The morning after my call with Marcus, I attend the 8 o'clock service at St. Catherine's as I have every Sunday for 34 years. Mrs. Patterson stops me on the church steps, her face bright with gossip. Lola. I saw the most beautiful wedding photos. Your Avery looked absolutely. Yes, I interrupt smoothly, my smile practiced and pleasant. She looked radiant, didn't she? Mrs. Patterson blinks, confused by my lack of reaction. Well, yes. I assumed you'd be there. I had a prior commitment, I lie, touching her arm gently. But how kind of you to notice. Now, if you'll excuse me, I promise to help Father Michael with the parish newsletter. I move past her before she can ask more questions. Inside the church office, I sit at the ancient computer and type up the newsletter announcements with mechanical precision. Baptisms. Potluck schedules. Volunteer opportunities. My fingers know the keyboard by heart. I've been doing this every week since Gerald died and I needed something to fill the empty Sundays. But my mind is elsewhere. I'm remembering another office, 30 years ago. The headmistress's suite at Riverside Academy. Mahogany desk. Leather chairs. The scent of old books and fresh coffee. And across from me, a weeping parent whose son had plagiarized his college entrance essay. "Please, Mrs. Lawson," the mother had begged. "He made a mistake. He's just a boy." I'd slid the evidence across my desk, side-by-side comparisons, timestamps, digital footprints. "He's old enough to understand consequences," I'd said quietly. "And if I excuse this, what does that teach him? That rules don't apply to those who cry loudest?" The boy was expelled. Last I heard, he's now a successful attorney with impeccable ethics. They called me rigid. Unyielding. Ice Queen Lawson. They never understood that discipline is love in its most honest form. My phone vibrates. Marcus. Initial search complete. "You free this afternoon?" I glance at Father Michael, who's struggling with the copy machine in the corner, and type back, "My house. 3 p.m. At precisely 3 o'clock, Marcus Cole arrives at my door. He's 38 now, though I still see traces of the gangly 17-year-old who sat in my office, suspended for fighting, his future hanging by a thread. "You were defending a younger student," I'd told him that day, reviewing the incident reports. "That shows character. But violence, even righteous violence, has consequences. Here's what we're going to do." I'd gotten him into anger management counseling. Connected him with a mentor. Helped him apply to colleges that valued resilience over perfection. He sends me a Christmas card every year. "Still grateful, Mrs. Lawson." "You look well, Marcus," I say, ushering him into my living room. "You look the same as you did 20 years ago," he replies, settling into Gerald's old armchair. His expression turns serious. "Mrs. Lawson, I need you to understand what you're asking me to investigate." I understand perfectly. I pour us both tea from the service Sandra gave me on my 50th birthday. A man married my granddaughter. I want to know who he is. Marcus opens his tablet, but doesn't turn it toward me yet. "Before I show you this, are you sure? Once you know, you can't unknow." I meet his eyes steadily. "Show me." He turns the screen. The dossier is thorough. Marcus always was a meticulous student. Caleb Baines. Age 34. CEO of Baines Capital Management. Professional photos show a handsome man with calculating eyes. The kind of smile that doesn't reach past his lips. Marcus scrolls. Surface level, he looks golden. Finance degree from Cornell. Multiple successful startups. Sits on 2 charitable boards. Surface level, I repeat. What's underneath? A restraining order from 2019. Ex-girlfriend named Jessica Portman. Claims he became controlling, isolated her from friends and family, then violent when she tried to leave. My teacup pauses halfway to my lips. Physical violence? She documented 3 separate incidents. Bruises, photographs, medical records. She filed charges, but they were dropped after she received a settlement and signed an NDA. He paid her to be silent. Yes. Marcus scrolls again. Then there's the business side. 5 failed startups between 2016 and 2023, all funded through shell companies registered in Delaware. Investors lost approximately $14 million combined. Was he prosecuted? No. The paper trail is deliberately tangled. By the time investigators realized the fraud, he'd already dissolved the companies and moved the money. Very sophisticated operation. I set down my teacup. What else? Marcus hesitates. There's a pattern, Mrs. Lawson. He targets wealthy women, usually younger, from established families. Whirlwind romances. Quick engagements. Then he gains access to their finances and social circles. And Avery fits that profile. Perfectly. Especially with that trust fund. The trust fund I spent 25 years building. The money that was supposed to give Avery independence, security, freedom, not trap her. Jessica Portman, I say. The ex-girlfriend. Where is she now? Marcus looks uncomfortable. That's the thing. She disappeared from social media in 2020. No forwarding address, no digital footprint. I can try to find her, but... Do it. My voice is sharp. I need to speak with her. Mrs. Lawson. Marcus leans forward. This man isn't just a bad husband. He's dangerous. If he finds out you're investigating him, then he'll learn that I can be dangerous too. Marcus studies me for a long moment, and I see recognition dawn in his eyes. He's remembering headmistress Lawson, the woman who expelled a donor's son for cheating, who fired a beloved teacher for inappropriate conduct, who never bent when pressure was applied. What do you want me to do? He asks quietly. Everything you've found, I want copies. Documents, photos, the restraining order, financial records. All of it. What are you planning? I smile faintly. Information is most powerful when strategically deployed. I'm simply gathering ammunition. Marcus sends the files to my encrypted email before he leaves. I spend the rest of the afternoon organizing them into a folder labeled CB, Comprehensive. Then I do something I haven't done in years. I open a fake email account, truthseeker2025@protonmail.com. And I compose a message to Denver's most notorious gossip blogger, Mile High Secrets. By Tuesday morning, the post is live. Shocking, Denver's golden boy Groom has dark past. The article is careful, no direct accusations, just allegations, and public records, and sources close to the situation. But the screenshots are damning. The restraining order. The failed businesses. Quotes from unnamed investors describing Caleb as a con artist and sociopath. I watch it trend on social media for exactly 4 hours. Then it vanishes. Every link leads to a 404 error. Screenshots are removed for violating community guidelines. The blogger posts an apology. Previous article contained unverified information and has been retracted. I sit back in my chair, impressed despite myself. Belinda's influence is faster and more extensive than I anticipated. She scrubbed the internet clean in less than half a day. My phone rings. It's Margaret from next door. Lola, did you see that article about? Well, I can't find it anymore, but it was about some man named Caleb Baines. I didn't see anything, I say smoothly. Perhaps you imagined it. But I didn't imagine it. And neither did the 300 people who took screenshots before it disappeared. Seeds planted. Doubts sown. Belinda may control the narrative, but she can't control whispers. That evening, I'm deadheading roses in my garden when I see Avery's latest Instagram post. She's wearing a silk robe, her hair in curlers, smiling at the camera with that same hollow brightness. The caption reads, "Marrying my protector tomorrow." Red heart. Protector. The word turns my stomach. I remember another student, Emily Chin, 15 years old, sitting in my office with a black eye poorly covered with makeup. "My boyfriend just gets protective sometimes," she'd whispered. "He loves me." I'd called her parents that day. Filed a report. Gotten her into counseling. Protection and control are not the same thing, I'd told her. Never confuse the two. Emily is 32 now. A lawyer. Happily married to a kind man who would never lay hands on her. She still sends me thank you cards. I look at Avery's photo again, at the way her smile doesn't reach her eyes, at the possessive hand of the man just visible at the edge of the frame. Then heaven help you, my child, I whisper. But I know heaven helps those who help themselves. I dial Marcus again. Jessica Portman, I say when he answers. How quickly can you find her? Give me 48 hours. You have 24. I hang up and return to my roses, pruning away the dead blooms with precise cuts. My neighbors see a gentle old woman tending her garden. They don't see the headmistress who never lost a battle. They don't see the mother who would burn the world to save her child. And they certainly don't see what's coming. But Caleb Baines will. Soon. The wedding happens on a Saturday in October, at the Denver Botanical Gardens. I know this because the society section of the Denver Post features a half-page spread with phrases like, exclusive celebration, and Denver's elite gather for the social event of the season. I spend that Saturday repotting my orchids. The delicate roots require gentle handling, patience, precision. Too much force and they break. Too little attention and they wither. I've kept some of these plants alive for 15 years, longer than some marriages last. Longer than Avery's will, I suspect. By evening, my hands are dirty with soil and my kitchen smells of Earl Grey tea. I'm reviewing Marcus's latest update. He's close to finding Jessica Portman, when my doorbell rings. It's nearly 9 o'clock. I glance through the peephole to see Margaret, still in her bathrobe, her phone clutched in her hand. Lola. She's breathless when I open the door. You have to see this. Everyone's talking about it. Oh God, it's horrible. She thrusts her phone at me. The video is already playing. The footage is shaky, clearly shot on someone's cell phone from across a crowded reception hall. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over tables draped in cream silk. In the center of the frame, Avery stands in her wedding gown, the lace sleeves elegant against her skin. Caleb is beside her, his tuxedo slightly rumpled, his tie loosened. Even through the grainy video, I can see he's drunk, the way he sways slightly, the aggressive set of his jaw. Someone has enabled the audio. I can hear the ambient noise of the reception, music, laughter, the clink of champagne glasses. Caleb leans close to Avery, whispers something I can't quite hear. But I see her face change. See the smile freeze, then crack. See her lean away. She says something back, quiet, placating. The body language of someone trying to de-escalate. I've seen that posture before. In my office at Riverside Academy, when students tried to calm angry parents. When teachers faced belligerent colleagues. The stance of someone who knows violence is coming and hopes to avoid it. Caleb's hand moves so fast the camera barely catches it. The crack of his palm against Avery's face echoes through the reception hall. For one frozen moment, everything stops. The music continues playing, but the guests have gone silent. Avery's hand rises to her reddening cheek, her eyes wide with shock and something worse, familiarity. As if she's felt this before but never in public. Then chaos erupts. Mark lunges forward, grabbing Caleb's arm. Two groomsmen pull him back. Belinda's voice cuts through the noise, shrill, panicked, "Turn off your cameras. Stop recording. This is a private event." But phones are already out. Dozens of them. The modern wedding guests capture everything, and they're already uploading. The video I'm watching ends there, frozen on Avery's face, her expression caught between humiliation and despair. Margaret is talking, but I can't hear her over the roaring in my ears. "Lola? Are you okay? You've gone pale. Should I call someone?" "No." My voice sounds distant. "Thank you for showing me, Margaret. I'm fine. But that poor girl, your granddaughter." "Yes," I say quietly. "My granddaughter." I close the door gently and return to my kitchen. The video has 47,000 views already. By the time I refresh the page, it's at 63,000. I watch it again. And again. And again. Not because I want to see Avery hurt. But because I need to understand every detail, every angle, every witness. Evidence. By morning, the video has exploded. 2.4 million views. Trending on every platform. Hashtag Denver Wedding Slap. Hashtag Abuser Exposed. Hashtag Justice for Avery. The comments section is a mix of outrage and armchair psychology. Someone needs to arrest this man. Why didn't anyone stop the wedding? There were warning signs. That poor bride. I hope she leaves him. Notice how he whispered first. Classic abuser tactic: provoke in private, attack in public, then claim she made him do it. I pour my morning coffee and sit at my laptop, methodically documenting everything. Screenshots of the trending hashtags. Archives of the video from multiple sources. Lists of everyone visible in the background, witnesses who saw, who recorded, who will remember. My phone rings at 7:43 a.m. Mark's name flashes across the screen. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Mom. His voice is ragged, destroyed. Mom, I don't know what to do. Good morning, Mark. I take a sip of coffee. How was the reception? Silence. Then, you saw the video. The entire world saw the video. Current count, 2.6 million views and climbing. It wasn't supposed to, he chokes on the words. Belinda is talking to crisis management teams. She thinks we can spin this, make it look like. Make it look like what? My voice is ice. Like your daughter wasn't assaulted at her own wedding? Like her husband didn't publicly humiliate and abuse her in front of 300 witnesses? Mom, please. We need to control the narrative before. Control the narrative. I set down my coffee cup with deliberate precision. Is that what Belinda calls it? Because I call it covering up domestic violence. It's complicated. No, Mark. It's actually quite simple. Your daughter married an abuser. You allowed it. And now you want to manage the PR instead of managing her safety. That's not fair. You want to know what's not fair? I stand, carrying the phone to the window where I can see the morning sun illuminating my garden. What's not fair is that I spent 25 years protecting that girl. Raising her. Loving her. And you banned me from her wedding because Belinda decided I was inconvenient. Mom. I would have stopped this wedding, Mark. If you had invited me, if you had let me meet Caleb, if you had valued my opinion over Belinda's social calendar, I would have seen exactly what he was. And I would have ended this before Avery ever walked down that aisle. The silence on the other end stretches so long I think he's hung up. Then, I know. His voice breaks. God, Mom, I know. You were right. About everything. I should have listened. I should have protected her. I should have. Should have doesn't help Avery now. I close my eyes. Where is she? At the hotel. The honeymoon suite. Caleb left last night after it happened. Said he needed to cool off. Avery won't come out. Won't talk to anyone. Not even you. Especially not me. He sounds destroyed. She knows I failed her. Good, I think, but don't say. Recognition is the first step toward redemption. What does Belinda want you to do? I ask instead. She's scheduled interviews with sympathetic media outlets. Wants to frame it as a one-time mistake caused by stress and alcohol. She's already got lawyers drafting statements. And what do you want to do, Mark? The question hangs in the air. I want to get my daughter away from that monster, he whispers finally. But I don't know how. She married him. Legally, he has rights now. And Belinda says if we push too hard, if we create more scandal, it could damage. Damage what? Belinda's reputation? My laugh is bitter. Your daughter was struck at her own wedding, and Belinda is worried about optics? She says the video will die down in a few days if we don't feed the story. That Avery and Caleb can work through this quietly with counseling Anne. Marcus found a restraining order, I interrupt. From Caleb's ex-girlfriend. Documented abuse. 3 separate incidents. He paid her to stay silent. Mark's breathing changes. You investigated him? Of course I investigated him. I'm not Belinda, I don't prioritize appearances over safety. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have listened? I ask quietly. Or would Belinda have convinced you I was being dramatic? Overbearing? Living in the past? He doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. I'm sending you the file, I say. Everything Marcus uncovered. The restraining order, the financial fraud, the pattern of targeting wealthy women. You show that to your lawyers, not Belinda's PR team. Your lawyers. And you get Avery out of that hotel. She won't leave. She keeps saying it was her fault, that she provoked him. My hand tightens on the phone. That's what they all say, Mark. That's how abusers work. They make their victims believe they deserve it. I think of Emily Chin again. Of the dozen other students over the years who wore bruises like shame. Listen to me, I say, my voice hardening into the tone that once made teachers straighten their spines and students stop making excuses. You have 48 hours before Belinda's PR campaign convinces the world this was an isolated incident. 48 hours before Caleb's lawyers start painting Avery as unstable or dramatic. 48 hours before the narrative shifts from abuser exposed to complicated marriage. What do? You go to that hotel. You tell Avery she's not alone. You show her the evidence of what Caleb really is. And you bring her home. What if she won't come? I'm quiet for a long moment, staring at the roses in my garden, beautiful, resilient, surviving because I tend them with ruthless precision, cutting away anything disease before it can spread. Then you tell her, I say finally, that her grandmother loves her. That I never stopped loving her. And that when she's ready, when, not if, I'll be here. After we hang up, I pour fresh coffee and return to my laptop. The video now has 3.1 million views. I download it. Archive it. Add it to the folder labeled CB, Comprehensive. Then I open a new document and begin typing. Timeline of Caleb Baines, Pattern of Abuse. 2019, Jessica Portman, Restraining Order. 2023, Rapid Courtship with Avery Lawson, 7 months. 2025, Public Assault at Wedding Reception. 3 data points. Enough to establish a pattern. Enough to prove this wasn't an isolated incident. Enough to destroy him. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus, found Jessica Portman. She's willing to talk. I smile faintly, my fingers resting on the keyboard. The chessboard is nearly complete. And Caleb Baines has no idea he's already in check. Mark arrives on a Tuesday afternoon, 2 weeks after the slap that broke the internet. I'm in my study when I hear his car in the driveway, that distinctive rattle of his aging BMW that Belinda always complained about. Get something more appropriate for your position, she'd say. But Mark loved that car. It was Sandra's graduation gift to him when he finished his MBA. I wonder if he still loves it, or if Belinda finally convinced him it was beneath them. Through the window, I watch him sit in the driver's seat for a full 3 minutes before getting out. His shoulders are slumped. His suit, usually impeccable, looks slept in. He knocks hesitantly, like a stranger. Come in, Mark, I call. The doors open. He enters my living room like a penitent entering confession. His eyes are red-rimmed, his face gaunt. He's lost weight. Mom. His voice cracks on the word. I need help. I gesture to the sofa. Sit. I'll make tea. I don't want tea. He stops, runs his hands through his hair. My company is collapsing. The scandal from the wedding, investors are pulling out. 3 major clients terminated their contracts. The board is calling for my resignation. I pour tea anyway, settling into my chair with deliberate calm. And Belinda? His laugh is bitter. Gone. Disappeared 4 days ago. Took her passport, her jewelry, emptied 2 of our joint accounts. How much? $83,000. He looks at me with desperate eyes. But that's not the worst part. I wait, sipping my Earl Grey. The house is mortgaged. She refinanced it 6 months ago without telling me. Took out a second mortgage for the wedding. His voice drops to a whisper. And Avery's trust fund is empty. My teacup pauses halfway to my lips. Empty, I repeat, my voice dangerously quiet. Belinda had Avery sign authorization forms during the engagement. Said it was for wedding expenses and investment opportunities. She told Avery you'd approve, that it was what you intended the money for. The teacup rattles slightly as I set it down. Not from trembling hands, but from the effort of keeping them steady. That fund, I say, each word precise and sharp, was built from my pension. 25 years of contributions. Every birthday check I sent Avery, every Christmas gift, it all went into that account. I know. Do you? I stand, walking to my desk where Sandra's photograph sits in its silver frame. When your wife was dying, Mark, when she could barely speak, she made me promise one thing. Make sure Avery's taken care of, Mom. Make sure she has security, independence, a future. I kept that promise even when it meant delaying my own retirement, even when my furnace broke and I wore extra sweaters instead of fixing it. Mom. That money wasn't for a wedding. It was for Avery's life. Her education, her home, her freedom to make choices without being dependent on anyone. I turned to face him. And Belinda stole it. She said you'd cut us off, Mark admits, shame coloring his voice. After Sandra died, she said you were too controlling with money, that if we didn't take initiative, you'd manipulate Avery through the trust fund. So she manipulated her instead. He flinches. Yes. I return to my chair, my mind already calculating. How much went to the wedding? About 200,000. The venue, the dress, the flowers, Belinda spared no expense. And the rest? The fund had nearly $400,000 in it. Mark's silence tells me everything. Caleb's business, I say flatly. Belinda said it was a guaranteed investment. That Caleb had insider connections, that we'd triple our money within a year. He looks sick. I should have questioned it. But she was so convincing, and Avery seemed happy, and I just wanted. You wanted the easy path, I finish. The one where you didn't have to stand up to your wife or admit your daughter was making a mistake. Yes. The admission costs him. I'm weak, Mom. You were right about everything, and I was too much of a coward to listen. I study him, this man I once called my son, who wept in my arms when Sandra died, who promised to honor her memory by protecting their daughter. Recognition is the first step toward redemption. But recognition without action is just self-pity. Where's Avery now? I ask. Still at the hotel. She won't leave. Caleb was arrested for assault, the video gave prosecutors everything they needed, but she keeps trying to call him. She thinks if she apologizes, if she explains, he'll forgive her. My hands tighten on my teacup. She thinks she needs his forgiveness? That's what he told her. In the holding cell, before his lawyer shut it down. He said she embarrassed him, ruined his reputation, destroyed his business opportunities. That if she'd just been a better wife, none of this would have happened. I close my eyes, seeing Emily Chen's bruised face again. Hearing her whisper, he just loves me too much sometimes. I need to see those financial documents, I say. Everything Belinda touched. Bank statements, investment forms, the mortgage papers. Mark pulls a folder from his briefcase with shaking hands. It's all here. I thought maybe you could help me understand where the money went, if there's any way to recover it. I spread the documents across my coffee table, and my headmistress brain, trained to spot plagiarism, embezzlement, any form of academic dishonesty, goes to work. It takes me less than 10 minutes to see the pattern. Charitable donations, I murmur, tracing one transaction with my finger. Belinda made several large donations to organizations I've never heard of. The Children's Hope Foundation. Global Health Initiative. Future Leaders Fund. She's always been philanthropic, Mark says weakly. These aren't real charities, Mark. I pull up my laptop, running quick searches. These are shell organizations. Registered addresses lead to P.O. boxes. No tax records. No proof of actual charitable work. His face goes pale. What are you saying? I'm saying Belinda didn't just steal Avery's money. She laundered it. I continue searching, pulling up incorporation records, tracking financial transfers. These charities move money offshore, then redistribute it through various accounts. It's sophisticated. Deliberately designed to obscure the trail. Why would she? Mark stops, understanding dawning. She was planning to leave all along. Yes. This isn't impulsive flight, Mark. This is calculated theft executed over months. I pull up another document. Look at the dates. The first donation was made 7 months ago. Right after Caleb and Avery got engaged. Mark sinks back into the sofa, his face ashen. She used our daughter. She used all of you. I reach for my phone, dialing Marcus. Mrs. Lawson, he answers immediately. I was just about to call you. Jessica Portman agreed to meet tomorrow. New priority, I interrupt. I need you to trace offshore accounts connected to these shell charities. I read him the organization names. And I need documentation of every financial transaction Belinda Lawson made in the past year. That's going to take some serious digging. Maybe illegal digging. Then find someone who specializes in that kind of digging. Marcus is quiet for a moment. You're building a case. I'm ending one. I glance at Mark, who sits with his head in his hands. How quickly can you work? Give me 72 hours. You have 48. After I hang up, Mark looks at me with hollow eyes. What are you going to do? I gather the documents back into their folder, my movements precise and controlled. I'm going to give Belinda exactly what she gave Avery, I say quietly. Nothing. The call comes at 2:17 a.m. I'm awake, I sleep poorly these days, when my phone lights up with Avery's number. Grandma? Her voice is small, broken. Grandma, are you there? I'm here, darling. I sit up, turning on my bedside lamp. What's wrong? He won't answer my calls. She's crying. I've tried 50 times. I just want to explain, to tell him I'm sorry for making a scene, for not controlling myself better. Avery. I keep my voice gentle but firm. You have nothing to apologize for. You don't understand. If I'd just been quieter, if I hadn't argued with him about the seating arrangements, if I'd smiled more. Stop. The word cuts through her spiral. Listen to me, my darling girl. This is not your fault. None of it. But he said. I know what he said. I know exactly what men like him say, because I've spent 40 years teaching students who tried to excuse their failures by blaming others. I soften my tone. Avery, do you remember when you were 8 and you fell off your bike? She sniffles. You made me get back on. No. I held the bike steady while you got back on. There's a difference. I pause. I can't save you from this, sweetheart. But I can hold things steady while you save yourself. Silence. Then, I don't know how. Yes, you do. You just need to remember who you are. You're Sandra's daughter. You're my granddaughter. You're stronger than you think. I'm so tired, Grandma. I know. Come home, Avery. Come home and rest. I can't face Dad. Or Belinda. Or anyone. Belinda's gone, I say gently. And your father is here, waiting. As am I. After we hang up, I sit in the darkness for a long time. Then I open my laptop and compose an email. To Financial Crimes Bureau, tip line. Subject, evidence of money laundering and fraud. Attached, 47 files. I include everything. Bank statements. Shell charity records. Offshore account transfers. Belinda's forged signatures on Avery's trust fund documents. Every file she touched. Every lie she told. Every dollar she stole. My finger hovers over the send button. You took what wasn't yours, Belinda, I whisper. Now you'll learn what it feels like to lose everything. I click send. The email whooshes into the void, carrying with it the documentation of Belinda's greed. In chess, there's a move called zugzwang, a position where any move makes your situation worse. Belinda thought she'd escaped. But she just moved into check. And I'm 3 moves from mate. The invitation is simple, delivered via text message on Thursday morning. Dinner. Saturday at 6. My house. Both of you. Mark responds immediately, we'll be there. Avery's reply comes 3 hours later, okay. 1 word. But it's enough. I spend Saturday preparing the meal with the same precision I once used to prepare lesson plans. Roasted chicken with rosemary, Sandra's favorite. Garlic mashed potatoes. Green beans almondine. Apple pie cooling on the counter, filling my kitchen with cinnamon and memory. The dining table is set with my good china, the set Gerald bought me for our 25th anniversary. White porcelain with delicate gold trim. I haven't used it since his funeral. At 5:47 p.m., I hear Mark's car in the driveway. Through the window, I watch them sit for a moment. Mark says something. Avery shakes her head. He reaches for her hand, she pulls away. Finally, they emerge. Avery moves like someone who's forgotten how bodies work, mechanical, disconnected. She's wearing a high-neck sweater despite the mild evening, and I know without seeing that she's hiding bruises. Her hair is pulled back in a careless ponytail. No makeup. No jewelry. She looks like Sandra did during chemo. Stripped down to bare survival. Mark supports her elbow as they walk up my path, though I can't tell if he's helping or she's tolerating. I open the door before they knock. Come in, I say simply. Dinner is silent except for the scrape of forks against plates. Avery barely eats, pushing food around like a child avoiding vegetables. Mark tries to make conversation, compliments the chicken, mentions the weather, but his words fall flat. I watch them both with the same clinical observation I used during parent-teacher conferences. Body language tells stories that words try to hide. Mark's guilt manifests in constant movement, adjusting his napkin, refilling water glasses, offering seconds nobody wants. Avery's trauma shows in her stillness. She sits perfectly straight, hands in her lap when not eating, eyes focused on her plate. The posture of someone trying to disappear. After the main course, I clear the plates and return with tea. And a folder. I place it in the center of the table, between the sugar bowl and cream pitcher. What's that? Mark asks, though his voice suggests he already knows. The truth, I say, settling back into my chair. Something this family has been avoiding for quite some time. I open the folder, spreading documents across the table like cards in a game of solitaire. Bank statements. Transfer records. Incorporation papers for charitable organizations that don't exist. Property deeds with forged signatures. I taught mathematics for 40 years, I say quietly, running my finger along a highlighted transaction. Numbers tell the truth even when people don't. And these numbers tell a very specific story. Avery looks up for the first time, her eyes focusing on the papers. What story? Her voice is hoarse, amused. The story of how Belinda Lawson systematically stole from you, from your father, and from your grandmother's legacy to your mother. I slide a statement toward her. Your trust fund, established with money from my pension, was emptied over 6 months. The funds were transferred to 3 shell charities, then moved offshore through accounts in the Cayman Islands. Mark's face has gone white. You knew? This whole time, you knew? I suspected, I correct. Then I confirmed. Then I documented. Why didn't you tell me? His voice rises. Why didn't you warn me before she? Would you have listened? I meet his eyes steadily. When I questioned the wedding, you called me controlling. When I asked about Caleb's background, you said I was being paranoid. When I wanted to meet him before the engagement, Belinda convinced you I'd interfere. He slumps back in his chair. I thought you were. I thought you wanted to control Avery's life. That's what Belinda told you to think. I pull out another document. This is an email from Belinda to her financial advisor, dated 8 months ago. She explicitly states her strategy: isolate the old woman from decision-making. She's too sharp. If we give her access, she'll unravel everything. Avery reaches for the paper with shaking hands, reading the words in Belinda's crisp, professional tone. She planned this, Avery whispers. From the beginning. Yes. I slide more papers toward her. The wedding wasn't about celebrating your marriage. It was about depleting your resources and binding you to Caleb before anyone could intervene. But why? Why would she? Avery's voice breaks. Money. Control. Perhaps simple cruelty. I shrug. Motivations matter less than actions. And her actions were systematic theft. Mark buries his face in his hands. I brought her into our lives. I introduced her to Avery. I gave her access to everything. Oh God, Sandra would. Sandra would be devastated, I say quietly. But Sandra would also want us to fix what's broken, not just mourn what's lost. I gather the papers back into the folder, all except one, a bank statement showing the trust fund balance, $0. This, I say, tapping the zero, represents 25 years of my work. Every birthday check, every Christmas gift, every small sacrifice I made to ensure you'd have security. I look at Avery. Your mother made me promise to take care of you. I kept that promise even after she was gone. Tears streamed down Avery's face. She told me you hated Dad. That you blamed him for Mom dying, that you wanted to control my life to punish him. I never hated your father, I say, my voice hardening as I turn to Mark. But I hated what he allowed. I hated watching him choose comfort over courage, image over integrity. I hated seeing him let Belinda erase Sandra's memory from your home, replace her photographs, redecorate her rooms, pretend she never existed. Mark flinches as if struck. I thought moving on was healthy. The grief counselor said. Moving on and erasing are not the same thing. I stand, walking to my mantel where Sandra's photograph still holds its place of honor. Your daughter needed to remember her mother. She needed to know she came from love, from strength, from a woman who fought cancer with dignity. I tried to protect her from the pain. You tried to protect yourself, I interrupt. And in doing so, you made Avery vulnerable to someone who saw her grief, her need for maternal guidance, and exploited it. The words hang in the air, brutal and true. Avery speaks, her voice barely audible. I thought you didn't want me anymore. After I didn't invite you to the wedding, I thought you'd hate me forever. I return to the table, kneeling beside her chair so we're eye level. I have loved you since the moment you were born, I say, taking her cold hands in mine. I held you when your mother couldn't. I sang you to sleep when your father was drowning in grief. I taught you to read, to tie your shoes, to stand up for yourself. I brush a tear from her bruised cheek. You broke my heart when you shut me out. But I never stopped loving you. I'm sorry, she sobs. I'm so sorry, Grandma. I should have listened. I should have seen what Caleb was. I should have. Hush. I pull her into my arms, and she collapses against me like a child, her body shaking with years of suppressed grief. You were manipulated by people who should have protected you. That's not your fault. Mark watches us, his own tears falling silently. Mom, I don't know how to fix this. The money's gone. Belinda's gone. Caleb's lawyers are already building a defense. My company is hemorrhaging clients. The house is mortgaged beyond what I can afford. I've destroyed everything Sandra built. I stroke Avery's hair, feeling her gradually calm in my embrace. You didn't destroy everything, I say quietly. Avery is still here. You're still here. I'm still here. What Belinda stole was money. Money can be rebuilt. How? I've lost everything. You lost money, Mark. You haven't lost your skills, your education, your ability to work. I meet his eyes over Avery's head. But more importantly, you haven't lost your chance to be the father Sandra believed you could be. What if it's too late? It's not too late until you stop trying. Avery pulls back slightly, wiping her face. The trust fund, all that money you saved, is gone, I finish. Yes. And that makes me angrier than you can imagine. But you know what makes me angrier still? She shakes her head. That you spent even one day believing you deserved to be hit. That you apologized to a man who hurt you. That you isolated yourself because he convinced you that you were the problem. I cup her face gently. The money was meant to give you freedom. But freedom isn't just financial, darling. It's knowing your worth. It's refusing to accept abuse. It's understanding that love doesn't come with bruises. I don't know how to be that person anymore, she whispers. Then we'll remember together. I help her to her feet. Come with me. I lead them both to my study, where boxes line one wall, boxes I haven't opened in years. I pull down one labeled Sandra and Avery, early years. Inside are photographs, school papers, report cards, crayon drawings. I lift out a photo of Sandra at 25, holding infant Avery in the hospital. She's exhausted but radiant, her smile pure joy. This is where you come from, I tell Avery, handing her the photo. Not from manipulation or abuse or control. From love. From a mother who would have done anything to protect you. Avery traces Sandra's face with trembling fingers. I barely remember her. Then I'll help you remember. I pull out more photos. Sandra teaching toddler Avery to walk. Sandra reading bedtime stories. Sandra laughing at Avery's kindergarten graduation. Mark steps closer, his own hands reaching for the memories. I put all our photos away. Belinda said it was unhealthy to dwell on the past. The past is what shapes us, I say firmly. Forgetting Sandra didn't make the grief less. It just made you vulnerable to someone who could rewrite your history. We spend the next hour going through boxes. Remembering. Crying. Laughing at forgotten moments. Avery finds a drawing she made at age 6, stick figures labeled Mommy, Daddy, Gamma. She holds it like treasure. I want to remember everything, she says. Will you help me? Every day, I promise. Mark clears his throat, his voice rough. Mom, I need to say something. I turn to him. I'm sorry. The words come out broken, genuine. I failed Sandra. I failed Avery. I failed you. I let Belinda isolate us, poison our relationships, steal from our family. I was weak and selfish and... Yes, I interrupt. You were all those things. He blinks, clearly expecting comfort instead of confirmation. But, I continue, recognition is the first step toward change. You can spend the rest of your life apologizing, or you can spend it being better. I don't know if I can. Then try anyway. I soften slightly. Mark, I forgive nothing. I'm not interested in absolving you of guilt or pretending the past didn't happen. But I will help fix what's left. For Sandra's sake. For Avery's sake. And perhaps, eventually, for yours. He nods, accepting the harsh grace. Avery leans against me, her head on my shoulder. What happens now? Now, I say, we begin again. We rebuild what was stolen. We remember what was forgotten. We protect what matters. How? I smile faintly, thinking of the email I sent to the Financial Crimes Bureau, of Marcus tracking Belinda's offshore accounts, of Jessica Portman waiting to testify about Caleb's pattern of abuse. Leave that to me, darling. Your job is to heal. Your father's job is to support you. My job is to ensure that everyone who hurt this family faces consequences. Grandma, Avery says slowly, you sound scary. Good. I kiss her forehead. Your mother used to say I was terrifying when I was right. It's about time people remembered that. We return to the dining room where the apple pie waits, still warm. As we eat dessert, Avery managing 2 full slices, her first real appetite in weeks, I watch my broken family begin to knit itself back together. It won't be easy. Mark will have to rebuild his career and his integrity. Avery will need therapy, time, possibly years to recover from Caleb's abuse and Belinda's manipulation. But they're here. They're trying. They're willing to remember. And I have work to do. Before they leave, I pull Mark aside. The Financial Crimes Bureau will contact you within a week, I say quietly. Cooperate fully. Tell them everything about Belinda's accounts. His eyes widen. You reported her? Of course I did. She committed fraud. She'll face consequences. I pause. Caleb's trial for assault is in 6 weeks. Jessica Portman, his ex-girlfriend, has agreed to testify about his previous abuse. That should ensure conviction. How did you? I was a headmistress for 40 years, Mark. I know how to research, document, and execute strategy. I smile faintly. Belinda thought she was playing chess with amateurs. She didn't realize she was facing a grandmaster. After they leave, Avery hugging me tightly, whispering, I love you, Grandma, I stand in my doorway watching their taillights disappear. The night is cool and clear. Stars visible despite the city lights. I think of Sandra, of the promise I made to her dying body. I kept my word, I whisper to the darkness. Our girl is coming home. Inside, I brew fresh tea and open my laptop. New email from Marcus, Belinda located in Belize. Local authorities have been contacted. Extradition proceedings beginning Monday. I reply, excellent. Keep me updated. Then I open another email, this one from Jessica Portman, Mrs. Lawson, I'm ready to tell my story. Thank you for giving me the courage. I smile, my fingers resting on the keyboard. The board is set. The pieces are moving. And checkmate is 3 moves away. The headlines break on a Monday morning, 3 weeks after our family dinner. Denver socialite arrested on embezzlement and fraud charges. Belinda Lawson accused of money laundering through fake charities. Whistleblower documents expose sophisticated theft ring. I'm in my garden when Margaret rushes over, her tablet thrust forward like evidence. Lola. Have you seen this? That woman who married Mark, she's been arrested. I continue deadheading my roses, snipping away the spent blooms with precise cuts. How unfortunate for her. Unfortunate? She stole millions. The article says she created fake charities and laundered money offshore. Can you imagine? Margaret scrolls frantically. And apparently there's a connection to some finance fraud scheme. They're investigating her and that man who married your Avery. What was his name? Caleb Baines. I move to the next rosebush. Though I believe he's currently awaiting trial for assault. Yes. The article mentions that too. Says investigators found evidence linking Belinda's shell companies to his failed startups. They were working together. She leans closer, conspiratorial. Who do you think blew the whistle? I smile faintly, trimming a particularly stubborn stem. Someone with excellent documentation skills, I imagine. By Wednesday, Mark's lawyer calls with news. The Financial Crimes Bureau has seized Belinda's offshore accounts, nearly $2 million hidden across 3 countries. After legal fees and restitution to other victims, there's enough to clear Mark's mortgages and restore Avery's trust fund. It's a miracle, Mark says when he calls to tell me. His voice sounds lighter than it has in months. They're saying the whistleblower had every transaction documented. Bank transfers, forged signatures, email correspondence. It was ironclad. How fortunate, I murmur. Mom. A pause. The investigators said the files were submitted from an encrypted email account. Professional-level organization. Almost like someone with decades of administrative experience compiled them. Imagine that. Mom. Mark, I'm in the middle of replanting my herb garden. Was there anything else? He laughs, a real laugh, the kind I haven't heard since Sandra was alive. No. Just, thank you. For everything you didn't do. I have no idea what you mean, I say primly. But you're welcome. Caleb's trial is swift and merciless. Jessica Portman testifies with quiet strength, describing 3 years of escalating abuse. The restraining order. The settlement that bought her silence. The terror that kept her hiding for years. He told me I was nothing without him, she says on the stand, her voice steady despite tears. That no one would believe me. That I'd provoked him. The prosecution plays the wedding video, that horrific slap heard around the world. The jury watches Avery's face crumble, watches Caleb's calculated cruelty. Marcus keeps me updated via text, guilty on all counts. Judge denied bail pending sentencing. I reply, good. The sentencing hearing is scheduled for 2 weeks later. Mark asks if I want to attend. No, I say. Avery needs to face him without me there. She needs to know she's strong enough. What if she's not ready? Then she'll become ready. Some lessons can only be learned by walking through fire. Avery comes to visit on a Saturday afternoon, 4 weeks after Belinda's arrest. She looks different. Healthier. Her hair is freshly cut, her eyes clearer. She's wearing jeans and a simple blouse, no designer labels, no borrowed elegance. Just herself. I brought gardening gloves, she says, holding up a pair. Thought maybe you could use help with the spring planting. I'd like that. We work in comfortable silence for a while, our hands in the soil, the spring sun warm on our backs. She plants marigolds while I prune the rose bushes. Finally, she speaks. Grandma, can I ask you something? Of course, darling. The whistleblower who turned in Belinda, the one with all those detailed files. She pulls a weed, not looking at me. Was it you? I consider my answer, snipping a dead branch with careful precision. Sweetheart, I say slowly, some weeds die only when you stop watering them. And some truths reveal themselves when someone simply knows where to look. She laughs, soft and a bit tearful. You're terrifying, you know that? I'm thorough, I correct, smiling. There's a difference. Is there? She sits back on her heels, studying me. You destroyed her. Belinda's facing 20 years in prison. Caleb got 15 years for assault and fraud. Dad's company is recovering but his reputation is damaged. She gestures at herself. I'm divorced at 23, broke, living back in my childhood bedroom. Yes, I acknowledge. And you don't seem sorry about any of it. I set down my pruning shears and turned to face her fully. Avery, do you know what I taught for 40 years? Mathematics. Yes. But more than that, I taught consequences. I taught that every action creates a reaction. That choices have weight. I gesture at the garden around us. When you plant roses, you get roses. When you plant weeds, you get weeds. Belinda and Caleb planted lies, manipulation, and abuse. They're simply harvesting what they sowed. But you're the one who made sure they harvested it. I documented truth and ensured it reached people who could act on it. That's not revenge, darling. That's justice. She's quiet for a moment, processing. And us? Me and Dad? What are we harvesting? A second chance, I say gently. Which is more than many people get. She nods slowly, then returns to her planting. I start volunteering next week. At a women's shelter. Helping domestic abuse survivors. Pride swells in my chest. That's wonderful. I figured if I couldn't save myself, maybe I could help others save themselves. She glances at me. You would have saved me, wouldn't you? If I'd let you. In a heartbeat. I touch her shoulder. But you're saving yourself now. That's better. Is it? Yes. Because it means next time, you won't need rescuing. You'll recognize the danger before it traps you. Over the following weeks, the house transforms. Mark repairs my porch, the one that's been sagging for 3 years. Avery helps me repaint the kitchen, choosing a soft yellow that reminds me of Sandra's favorite spring dress. We work together, rebuilding not just my home but our family. There are hard conversations. Mark admits he saw warning signs with Belinda but ignored them because she made him feel young again. Avery confesses she knew Caleb was controlling but thought that meant he loved her. Your mother would have seen through both of them immediately, I tell them one evening over dinner. Sandra had excellent instincts about people. She had you, Mark says quietly. That's how she learned. I allow myself a small smile. Perhaps. 3 months after Belinda's arrest, I'm in my garden with my afternoon tea when I open Facebook. Avery's latest post shows her at the women's shelter, surrounded by survivors, all of them smiling at the camera. The caption reads, "Finding purpose in pain. Helping others recognize their worth. #SurvivorStrong, #breaking the cycle." The comments are supportive, loving. People who knew her before, real friends, not social climbers, welcoming her back to herself. I screenshot the image and set it beside Sandra's photograph on my mantle. They banned me from the wedding, I say to my daughter's frozen smile. But they couldn't ban the truth. And truth, my darling, always finds its way home. My phone buzzes. Marcus. Final update, Belinda's assets completely seized. All victims compensated. Case closed. I reply, thank you for your excellent work. Anytime, Mrs. Lawson. Though I hope you never need my services again. So do I. I set down my phone and return to my garden. The roses are blooming beautifully this year, deep crimson, perfect form, no trace of disease. It took years of careful tending, ruthless pruning, patient cultivation. But good things, I've learned, are worth the work. Margaret waves from her yard. Lola. Coffee tomorrow morning? I'd be delighted. Life, I think, settling into my chair with fresh tea, is remarkably simple when you understand one fundamental truth. Some people plant gardens, and some people plant weeds. The key is knowing which is which. And having the courage to pull the weeds before they choke everything beautiful. I sip my Earl Grey, watching the sunset paint my roses gold. Belinda thought she could rewrite our family story, erase me, control Avery, manipulate Mark into forgetting Sandra ever existed. But she underestimated the power of a grandmother's love. And the precision of a headmistress's revenge. I didn't want vengeance for its own sake. I wanted restoration. Balance. Justice served not with cruelty, but with the ruthless application of truth. Belinda and Caleb destroyed themselves. I simply made sure their destruction was documented, prosecuted, and permanent. Some might call that cold. I call it love. Because sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is ensure that evil faces consequences. They're safe now, Sandra, I whisper to the evening air. Our family is healing. Mark is learning. Avery is growing. And I'm still here, keeping my promise. The garden glows in the fading light, beautiful and ordered and exactly as it should be. I banned nothing from my life. But I cultivated everything worth keeping. And pulled every weed that threatened my roses.